Welcome to Winchester in the Know. I'm your host, Sergeant Dan Perenick of the Winchester Police Department. I'm your school resource officer and work closely to keep youth, adults, and seniors safe within our community each and every day. I'm also the police department's liaison to the Winchester Coalition for a Safer Community, and in partnership with WinCam, we will bring you a topic on each show that you should know about. Through sharing information with our community, we hope to prevent issues and problems that we are seeing and dealing with often. We also hope that our parents use this information to assist them while parenting their children at all ages and save them hardships others have experienced in the past. We know all are very busy, but please take some time to view this short program and let us know your thoughts. Today's topic is about challenges with the internet and cell phone use, and we are joined by District Attorney Marian and Assistant District Attorney Michelle Margolis. And ladies, thank you for joining us on this series.
Happy to be here.
Oh, that's great. And as you saw from the intro, our goal here is to have a conversation around our issues that we're experiencing not only in our community, but throughout the cities and towns in Middlesex and throughout the state and the country around internet use and abuse and some of the things that come along with it. First, I want to start off with Marian, with some initiatives that your office have been very proactive about. I know working with you and Michelle and the rest of the office, we've partnered on a number of things. Can you explain to us some of the things that you're working on?
Sure. We obviously have been doing a lot of work around sexting because what people don't always realize is the sending and receiving of these kind of photographs can be criminal. We're obviously not interested in dealing with it that way. And we've developed, and Michelle's been doing a lot of great work with taking to folks, both kids and parents, a program for dealing with those situations where it occurs, whether in school or out of school and impacting school. We've also put together a program to really be educating parents and school staff about the internet, just safety issues, things to know, settings, all of the things that kids often know and parents don't so much know sometimes. We have a very robust 1-hour program that we've been out in the community doing, a Smart Choices program. It's an interactive program presenting middle school kids with scenarios they either have faced or will likely face soon, asking them to make a choice about what decisions they would make, and then we have discussions around why they made certain decisions, what might be the consequences of those decisions. And then, because we're always looking to be the word of prevention in terms of especially things that can befall kids, we have been able to identify things that are common to the seasons. You know, kids being left in hot cars, kids around water in the summer, kids with safety on school buses going back to school, stranger danger as they head back to school. So we have programs for each of those seasons. We spend a lot of time taking those out into the community, going to schools, to day camps, to after school programs. We play a Jeopardy type game with the kids, so it's a great way for them to use the information that we've just given them, and then we ask them to become ambassadors for us, taking that information home with them.
Oh, that's terrific. A lot of great initiatives, and like you said, for the seasons. Internet safety and cyberbullying, we see a great deal of it now. As the school resource officer, I deal with both our primary and secondary levels because it's so easy. It's a lot of times they think anonymous, and it's not face-to-face like how we grew up and having interaction with one another and seeing emotions and feelings and stuff. What are we seeing around cyberbullying? And I know the schools and the superintendents have done a great job with reporting and trying to investigate it. Can we talk a little bit about that?
I think, Dan, it's some of the things you mentioned. I think being anonymous or being able to type something often makes it seem less painful than it would if you were looking at another child and saying that same thing. It's also just volume. You know, as I say often, for many of us, when you grew up, if you wanted to communicate with us outside of school, the only way to do that was to call the landline at our house. And you weren't able to access kids 24/7 pretty privately, whether kids have phones or tablets or whatever. So if there's a problem, if somebody's getting, you know, kids have always said hurtful things to each other. But part of the problem is when it can be 24/7, and when one person can jump on and then start tagging other people and bringing other people into the conversation, it just really increases the volume and the frequency of what's happening. And that makes it very untenable for kids in these situations.
Michelle, how about some strategies for parents to help their kids be able to deal with the amount of use of their smartphones, their tablets, their emails, their internets, so that some of these things don't happen? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, remember that you're the parent and the child is the child, and you still should have control over what is coming in and out of your home, what the child is having access to on the phone. Now, you can't be inside their world all the time. So to a certain extent, it's about educating the child so that they know what they're supposed to be doing, how they can protect themselves, let them know that they can come to you and discuss if they are being bullied, if they're having problems with someone at school. But I also always tell parents that you need to have your child's password. You need to be looking at where they're going online.
Sure.
You need to know what those apps are. You need to just look at Google and Google in 5 most dangerous apps for kids, for example, and things will come up, and you can look and you can see, does my child have Snapchat on their phone? Most kids do. Snapchat is a lot more dangerous than people are led to believe. Kids think that images or messages that they send to another child disappear within a certain amount of time after they're open. Well, I'm not very tech savvy, but I know how to take a screenshot of something.
Sure.
If somebody sends a picture, somebody can take a screenshot of it, they can have it, and then it's gone. Same things with other things. A lot of cyberbullying takes place on apps like that. And there's other apps that strangers can use to get access to kids, seeming like a sympathetic ear, seeming like another child, maybe, who wants to talk about your experiences, and maybe we can meet up somewhere. And there's just dangerous apps out there, and ways that strangers are able to actually get inside your home through your child's phone. So you got to know what the apps are. You have to know who they're talking to, read their text messages. Parents don't want to violate their children's privacy, and certainly you want your kids to feel that they have a sense of privacy, but your job as a parent is to protect them, primarily.
And that's huge that you started off by parenting. I know parents are role models also for their children. And I know in our home it's difficult at times because we're busy with work and with family things and using it. But setting those limits for ourselves and for our kids are very important. It can be done. They just need to think about it and set those limits. Also having the passwords and being able to watch and know where your kids are and where they're at and what they're utilizing is a great resource too. And you bring up a great point about screenshots and having somebody take a picture from another camera, another phone, and all the rest of it. And we see it a lot of times in investigations that's how it gets out. Mm-hmm. And once it's there and it's captured electronically and it gets disseminated, it's there forever, for the most part. Mm-hmm. So, Marian, you started off with the talk, starting off the conversation around sexting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our people in our community might not know what it is, but I think a lot of our middle school, high school age kids, our kids who have gone off to college, are aware of what it is. And it's taking inappropriate photos and sending it to who you think is a trusted source. I know that we work closely together because distributing images of young people is against the law. It is considered a felony. And I know that we work very closely together because a young person's life could be ruined from something like this. But through an investigation, through working with the DA's office, can we talk a little bit about some of what we do around that and how we work with the young people who've made a mistake, how we work with the parents, how we work with the local police department to try to resolve this before it does result in charges?
I think what's important is to think about the fact that it has so many long-term implications. The research shows us that over half of the people who get a picture share that with somebody else. So even though people think I am sending this to a person who is my close, close friend and would never betray me, kids are kids, and they send them and they share them, or as Michelle says, they're taking screenshots of them and the picture gets out of there. And the other concerning piece is how many of these self-made pictures, videos, whatever they may be, end up somewhere on a commercial site eventually, because there's just a constant need for that sort of content and it gets sort of picked up and trolled someplace else. And I don't think, certainly kids don't, and often parents don't see the danger of that. And then there's the impact that it can have when it starts spreading through, for instance, a school community or a team or something like that. The person who's the subject of that picture, who now is expected to keep coming to practice or keep coming to school when everybody else is viewing those very personal kind of photos on their device.
And it has a ripple effect, because it could be anxiety, it could lead to depression, it could lead to school avoidance, it could lead to a number of things that, again, has that ripple effect through our school community and through our community.
I think if you just think, none of us would want to walk into a room where even half of the people might have just seen a picture of us in some state of undress or some other inappropriate picture. I mean, these are it's awkward enough to be an adolescent, never mind having those kind of pictures out there. And kids are going to stop going to school. They're going to be very upset by that. So there's just that impact.
Well, Middlesex has taken the lead on working with families and working with kids. Michelle, can you talk about the program that you work with young people?
Right, we deal with, in our office, we try to deal on both ends. We try to be proactive and educate the kids before they get involved in sexting activity. But we don't get to everybody, and sometimes people don't listen. And the brutal fact of the matter is, this has become really kind of a part of the dating ritual for kids now in middle school and high school. It's very, very common, and the kids don't even see it when they send the pictures out. They don't see it as an extraordinary thing that they're doing. It's just something that's just done. So we try to educate them, but when cases come in, when photos are being circulated, oftentimes kids will go talk either to the resource officer or the vice principal at school. We find out that the pictures are going around, then it gets reported back to us. We really have two goals. Our first goal is to try to minimize the damage as much as we possibly can. So my first call is always to the resource officer or detective in the town where the activity is going on, and we try to make sure we go to the source where the pictures were originally sent from, ask that child, who did you send the pictures to, and then follow up. So I sent them to my boyfriend. Okay, we go to the boyfriend. Ask the boyfriend, who did you send them to? And we take everybody's phones so that the pictures can't be further disseminated. So we collect the evidence that way, but mostly what we're after is to get the devices that the pictures are on so that we can destroy them and make sure that they're not circulated any further. Our second goal, after minimizing the damage, is to try to educate everybody so that it doesn't happen again, so that the kids can learn from this experience, tell their friends, and prevent it from happening again. There are cases where there are different things that happen that are maybe a little bit more severe that add concern on our part. If there's extortion going on, if someone's being threatened, I have pictures of you. If you don't send me more pictures, I'm going to spread the pictures around, or I'm going to, hurt you in some way if you don't do something for me. Those cases we do potentially look to prosecute, but most of the time in these cases where it's a typical sort of sexting situation, we do try to resolve with education. So I have a class that I do with one of our digital forensics investigators, and we do it a couple times a year. Basically, when we get enough kids that fill up a class, we do the class. And I go through the law with them, and I explain to them the kind of legal penalties that they could potentially face. And they're not pretty charges. There really is, the law in this area hasn't really caught up to the activity of the kids and to the technology that the kids have available to them. So the laws that apply are the child pornography laws. And those laws obviously have pretty devastating consequences. So we lay that out and we tell them, look, if you were charged, if we charged you with what you've done, these are the potential penalties you could face. You could face a felony conviction. You could face having to register as a sex offender. And the kids are, for the most part, and the parents are pretty surprised that those potential penalties are out there. And it really does sort of paint everything in a totally different light when they see how much trouble they could potentially get in if they continue the behavior. And we haven't seen many repeat offenders after kids come to the class. They do they do tend to stay away from it going forward.
And combined with that program, along with the prevention things that you talked about, Marian, that the office has been doing and will do, in our partnership with the Winchester Coalition for a Safer Community, to bring the programs in the school department to help our parents, help our kids understand those things, are only going to help us in the long run, and hopefully reduce this and move on to something different. So I'm pleased, and I've worked closely with our Detective Bureau and worked with our department in your office because it does happen here in Winchester. And you know, we keep everybody's confidentiality, and we work together to try to reduce the harm, make it a teachable moment, and then move on. But again, if it's a repeat offense, or there's circumstances that cause it to be bigger than what it is, then we will discuss it and maybe charge if we have to. But we're very fortunate to work hand in hand with the DA's office to be able to resolve it in a positive way. It's real important that we talk about this, along with the cell phone use, along with the full internet, as far as parents having the conversation with their children on a regular basis to explain the dangers, along with the great things that the internet's there for and what we can use them for. How about, as we start to close up here, advice for young people, and then advice for parents that you could share with them from our experiences being in the office and as police department with folks? And
Well, I think what we want, even in this digital age, is the same thing parents have been teaching their kids forever. We want them to be kind and respectful to other people,
Yes.
be good citizens, whether it's digital citizens or in their actual life. And we want them to stand up for other people and know when a problem is beyond them, know when they need a grown-up's help. Sometimes that's the hardest thing for kids, to realize that the problem has taken off and they need to have a grown-up intervene. And we want them to feel free to do that, whether it's their parents, someone in school, or somebody like a resource officer. So I think that's an important piece, and a lot of it is also just being ahead of things. We shouldn't be giving devices to kids without setting the rules and making assessments about what their maturity level is and what they're going to be able to handle, and educating them about the dangers. It's a lot harder to go backwards than it is to say we're giving you certain permissions. You know, Michelle talked a little bit about knowing your kids' passwords. One of the things we know is that for every platform kids know their parents have, they're probably on a couple more. So it really is a parent's job. And I joined Michelle with, I'm not very tech savvy, but as a parent, you have to educate yourself enough to be able to be protecting your child and be able to look closely at their devices. And I think that's something you set from the beginning. You give a child a phone or a tablet with the understanding, I will be looking at it. And as boring as it can be sometimes, you have to actually do that and make, you know, and sit there once in a while and go through and look at what's there, and know what are red flags that will take you somewhere else to make sure your child's safe.
And it's not that hard to educate yourself. Like you said, you can Google, even the top 5 social media sites that young people are using today. Take that little bit of time to educate yourself. Call and ask questions of the police department. We'll give information from the DA's office so if they have questions, because education is huge to hopefully prevent this. Michelle, how about some suggestions for kids? What about kids that find themselves in a tough circumstance?
Well, don't be afraid, like Marian said, to talk to your parents or another trusted adult. It might not be your parent. It might be a teacher at school. It might be a counselor at school. Some adult that you trust. Don't be afraid to go and tell them what's going on. It can be a very embarrassing situation. It can be difficult to talk about sometimes, but a trusted adult is your best avenue to get help. And your parents, they do love you. They want the best for you, and they want to protect you. And they may be nosy, and they may be a big pain in the butt, but they're there to help you, and they really do understand, because they were teenagers, and they might not know what it's like being a teenager now in this time with this technology, but they know what it's like to make mistakes and make bad decisions and bad choices because they did it when they were teenagers, and they want to help you, and they really do want to get you through this difficult period of time in your life. So don't be afraid to talk to your parents.
And as the resource officer here in this community, and for a number of years, it eventually will come out. It's just trying to get to that trusted adult, a parent, a teacher, a counselor, a school resource officer, somebody who you care about sooner than later, so that we can help and assist and try to make it a teachable moment for
The
everybody.
sooner the better.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Any other initiatives that we have going? I just have a couple of minutes here to close up.
Well, we'll be working a lot as school starts, obviously working closely with our police, our fire chiefs, our superintendents to get everybody off to a safe start. There's obviously always safety concerns that we have, the more ordinary safety concerns about people riding buses, walking to school, those kinds of things. Making sure that kids understand the rules about who they should be leaving with and when they should leave with somebody else. And then we, always are thinking about what's the safety of our school campus, and are our kids as safe as possible and our staffs as safe as possible when they're at school during the day.
Well, I have to tell you, over the years that I've been doing this, working with you and working with your office, it's been a pleasure, especially with our memorandum of understanding, which is very important. We did discuss that in a previous show, but again, can you just touch base on the memorandum of understanding about schools, police, and district attorney's office working together and what the goal is?
We all do our best work when we collaborate, and we're very fortunate in Middlesex County to have police departments, fire departments, and superintendents who are willing to work together, to come to the table, both to set plans for how we're going to protect people, to act in a moment if something does happen, and that comes from having had that preparation, being able to execute a plan if there's a difficult situation, and then being able to come back and look and learn from the situations that have happened. So we have a memorandum of understanding that covers a number of aspects of our school community life and talks about how we will collaborate on those. And we've done some amazing work as a result of those collaborations.
And I know recently we just signed with our superintendent returned in reference to school resource officers working together to make sure that we're all on the same page. And it's been a great honor for me to be a school resource officer and working with others throughout the district, working with the assistant district attorneys for our district to keep our kids safe. It's been great. So I wish to thank our guests today, District Attorney Marian Ryan and Assistant District Attorney Michelle Margolis, for sharing this important information. You can contact the District Attorney's Office at 781-897-8300 to find out more. Please let others know in the community about this program and encourage them to view it on demand at wincam.org. If you would like more information about this program or any others within the series, please contact us at winchestercoalition@gmail.com. Lastly, we encourage you to download our Winchester Coalition app, which is 01890, which also contains our text tip line. On behalf of the Winchester Coalition for a Safer Community and WinCam, I thank you for taking time to join us on Winchester in the Know.